Guys, let me start this way. Before I ask Anna a question, I'm gonna ask you guys a question, okay? And I want you to think about it. What's the point of life? Okay, Okay, now seriously, once I give you the answer, I think that a lot of you will say, well, yeah, obvious. It's obvious and so, big genius figured out the most obvious thing in the world, right? By the way, no one calls me a big genius. So that's why I want you to think about it ahead of time. What do you think is the point of life? Because before I give you the answer, there's 1,000 different possible answers. People will say, to do good in the world, religious folks will give us a certain different kind of answer depending on their religion, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, I think logically it is inescapable that the point of life is to get the most out of life, the most enjoyment out of life. Now, I don't know why nobody ever tells you that. And so if you think like, duh, yeah, but are you sure you were saying duh a minute ago, right? And even if you were saying, Cenk, of course I was saying get most enjoyment out of life. Of course that's the right answer. What else would we do? Nothing else even makes sense. Okay, but then the next layer to that is, how? How do you get the most enjoyment out of life? Is it as simple as the hedonist? Let's just go crazy and eat whatever we want and have sex anywhere we want or with whom we want, et cetera, and just go nuts. No, not really, because that'll give you happiness in the short term, but it might do great damage in the long term, and then you actually have not enjoyed life properly, right? These are breakthrough comments. But Anna, do you see people doing this? Do you see people going, oh, you know what? I figured out my life. I figured out what makes me the most happy. And for example, I'll give you my example in a second of what makes me the most happy. And I figured it out in the short term and the long term. And I know that that's my objective. And that's why I've been leading my life with that in mind to get the most out of it. I haven't seen too many people do that. So, but maybe I'm being ridiculous. Maybe everybody's doing that. And they're like, Cenk, we're all so happy. And we all know that. What are you, stupid? And maybe that's true. So what do you think, Anna?
Well, I mean, I think that most people know what makes them happy. It's just a question of whether or not they have either the resources or in my opinion, the most important resource of time in order to engage in the things that make them happy. So, I mean, real quick way you can make me happy if you want to make me happy, give me more time off. And I can spend time with my family, which makes me super happy. Interior decorating, which makes me super happy. Smoking weed and reading super long articles about stuff that I'm just curious about, that makes me super happy. But no, I think, look, everything in life is about balance. So part one, I think, is identifying what makes you happy, but finding the balance or making the space in your life to actually engage in those things. Because we have to kind of uncondition ourselves, decondition ourselves to not feel, for me at least, guilty about not being productive, right? Like there's always this pressure to be a productive member of society, and I think that takes away from allowing people to do things that they genuinely enjoy that might not be seen as productive by everyone else. You get what I'm saying?
I do, absolutely. So actually, you just hit on something that is two giant problems that people, again, recognize as problems, obviously. We're not dense, but I don't think they realize the enormity of the problems. One is guilt, and the other one is judgment, people judging you. And there are so many things that society tells us that we should feel guilty about. In a sense, Anna, you're lucky because you feel guilty about being more productive. And that's a good thing because it leads you to being more productive and getting long-term fulfillment out of hopefully the things that you're doing and bringing news to people, but really bringing hope and change to people to the best of your ability, and that makes you fulfilled, et cetera, right? A lot of people feel guilty about nonsense stuff. I remember when I was religious, for example, and I don't mean to pick out religious folks, so that's not what this is about, okay? But I used to feel guilty about certain things when I was a kid, right? There's no reason to feel guilty about any of that stuff. I mean, if you believe the stuff that folks teach you when you're a kid, and it doesn't matter really which religion, there's all these different things. Oh, you can't do that with that person, you can't do that with that person, you can't do that with yourself, you can't do this, you can't do that. And if you do any of that, you should feel super guilty. And that gets inside your head. And one of the top things I want to tell you guys today, once we get beyond the overwhelmingly obvious and the slightly obvious, is you have no idea how many people are inside your head. And they don't need to be there. You could actually empty them all out. Now, it's not that easy because as humans, we're built literally, biologically, genetically, evolutionarily, as social animals. And because we're social animals, we get our view of ourselves from how others perceive us. But that's dangerous and that's wrong. Why? Because first of all, other people don't actually know you. They know very, very little about you. Think about high school, for example. And my guess is that you had a range of folks in high school who thought about a range of different things about you. I had my nerd friends and they liked me. I had the football non-friends. I was on the team, but we didn't really get along. There was the cool kids who thought I was a nerd. There's all these different ranges of opinions about me, right? I imagine you had the same, right?
Yeah, I mean, sure, I did. I mean, everyone thought I was great in high school. But
really? By the way, all through.
Of course not. Of course not. I was bullied like crazy in high school, like nonstop, incessantly. And we didn't have a football team in my school because I went to a hippie school that didn't have that kind of stuff. But anyway, but yeah, you are right. I think that a lot of people, especially when they're younger, tend to hyper focus on what other people think about them, how they perceive them, and that unfortunately translates to how people view themselves. And I think that could be dangerous, especially because people are full of it. And you should be confident in who you are. You should be confident in your preferences and your hobbies, and not really care about anyone who has anything negative to say about it.
Yeah, but everybody says that. Nobody actually does it, right?
I do it.
Okay, well that's awesome. Do you? I feel like a lot of folks get inside your head. No?
I mean, they used to, but now, I mean, someone who's been a positive influence on my life, and I don't think he even knows it, is Ken Klippenstein.
Really?
Ken Klippenstein and Jordan Ewell. Because they clown on ridiculous right wingers, right? So if anyone would get under my skin time to time, it would be right wingers. But once you like really take a step back and see how ridiculous they are, it's like, I love when people bring up my nose job. Like, I think I look really damn good, right? Like the nose job doesn't bother, like bringing up my nose job makes me realize I spent money on something that worked and I'm proud of it, right? So like, no, like that kind of stuff just, they don't have the ability to get under my skin at all. And it's actually pretty liberating and fun.
And that's exactly how I want it to be for you guys. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.